Right now we're going to welcome in Kevin Minnick of NJ Advanced Media, talk a little high school football. Good morning, Kevin.
Hey, Sully, how are you?
Pretty good, man. What's going on?
I'm watching the last couple minutes here. My team, Man U, is going to beat Chelsea here on the road. And
nice.
Then, got a little bit of time. Then we got another big football game this afternoon.
Now, has the wife been dragging you out to any hay rides or apple picking lately?
No, we're past that. We talked about that before. We're beyond that point now. So, nothing like that. I'm not, if we want to go, we'll go. But no pressure.
I told Nick I was going to mess with you in the first minute.
That's all right. I mean, no big deal. We're past that point. So we're good.
How's the house coming along? Are you big into decorations for the holidays? I mean, I saw Christmas stuff out in stores already. So it's all kind of one holiday season.
When Christmas time comes around, yes, we'll everything gets decked out.
That's your big. You go all out on Christmas.
Yeah, we're not there yet, though. We got plenty of time. Right now, I'm in the middle of having my kitchen redone. So right now the house is in a disaster mode. So we're not. We're just hoping that work gets done pretty soon. So
you're not that Halloween house with like the all kind of decorations and the zombie that comes to life.
Not at all. Not at all.
Oh man. So we're right in the thick of high school football season. We got when's the cutoff coming up for after next weekend for playoffs?
Cutoffs after next weekend, after next Saturday, and teams will be they'll mull over everything and put together the 16 teams into groups, and next I believe it's a week from tomorrow. So it's a lot earlier than usual, but I think everybody's excited for what the possibilities might be.
How many winless teams are going to make the playoffs?
That's that's just a sore point with me. I mean,
yeah, Nick's over there shaking his head.
It's what there comes a point when you have to win some games to get in. You can't lose. That's just a ridiculous rule, if you want to even call it a rule, whatever it is, a circumstance, I guess. If you're not a 500 team, in my opinion, you don't belong. Cut and dry, period. I don't care if you're one of the big six in the North. I don't care if you're dominating, or you're playing great teams down here, but you're not winning games. If you're not a 500 team, you don't deserve to be in, period. And that's the way, in my opinion, that's where it should all start. It should start right there. And, hey, if you're 3-5 at the cutoff and you don't get in, well, you know what? This year you just weren't good enough. And I don't want to hear about getting extra points and bonus points and this, that, and the other for playing a tough schedule. In all honesty, for the most part, you didn't even create your own schedule. The schedule was created for you. So, no, if you're not 500, you don't belong. So, a team that's winless, a team that's 2-6 at the cutoff that gets in, and in this formula could be a top 8 team in their bracket. I'm not a fan of that. I just don't agree. I don't like it. What can I tell you? It's just to me, it's just brutal.
Well,
you can't win a game. You can't win a game. You don't belong.
Kevin, you echo my exact sentiments from last night. Cherokee is now 0-6, and I was talking to Will Morris last night. Apparently, based on his early projections, he hasn't finished them yet, but it seems like early on after the results last night, Cherokee, despite being 0-6, is likely to stay at 8th place in South Group 5, according to his projections, which would put him in the playoffs in a first-round matchup with Williamstown.
It is what it is all I can say, and I don't make the rules, but I don't have to like them. And to be an offer and be in the playoffs,
yeah, I don't like it either.
If that doesn't say something about the way the system is, then nothing else does. If you can't win a game during the regular season, how do you expect to win a game in the postseason? And then, you look at some of these non-public teams, Camden Catholic, Bishop Eustace, and Paul VI. They all go into this weekend without a win, all of them. And they opted out. Now they're in a different situation in the non-publics, and I think that the road to win a title there is is extremely difficult for South Jersey teams when you put the state together. But they kind of get it, and I think when you're at 0 for the season, that does not make you a playoff team.
Now, Kevin, what does that mean when they opt out? Every team has that option, I guess, and are they encouraged not to opt out? How does that work?
No, you have until, I believe it was either the end of last weekend or early this week, where every team has to submit to the state whether they want to participate in the playoffs if they qualify. And the last couple of years, Bishop Eustace has not done so, because of the way their record is, the number of kids on their team, the competition that they would have to face up north. They'd be in a situation where they, in all honesty, they lose a few kids to injury during a game. That could be the end of the game.
Yeah.
So you do have an option to opt out. What that'll get you is probably an extra crossover game. And the way it's worked down here is, a team like a Camden Catholic and Paul VI and Eustace, maybe, there's 2 crossover games they play each other. One of them gets to play, they play each other a little bit. I know Eustace and Paul VI have done that in the past. So, there's other teams that have opted out in the other non-publics already. So there'll be some first-round buys and some playing games, things along those lines. But, it's just for a lot of teams at this point, when they're opting out, you're looking at teams that have a limited number of kids, teams that have had extremely rough seasons, and the biggest thing is almost from just a safety factor. It just doesn't make sense to put the time and effort and money, really, for a lot of these schools that have to travel to a North Jersey team for a playoff game that, in all honesty, they're going to lose. They could be done at halftime. So it's an option that's out there, and these 3 teams have taken it.
Is the NJSI okay with that, or do they try to discourage that? What's their feeling on that? Have you talked to anyone over there about that kind of thing?
No, I mean, I've talked. It's in the rules, and it's not. It's an option, and a lot of teams. Some people will say, well, your kids play all year. It's an opportunity to play in the playoffs. You're taking that away from them. You're taking away an opportunity to play a really good team. But I think for these programs and these schools, you have to look at it a little bit deeper than just being a game. There's a lot of travel expense involved and time and really, like I said, it just comes down to numbers and kids getting hurt, and it's just not worth taking the risk.
Talking with Kevin Minnick of NJ Advanced Media. Check out all his stuff on NJ.com. And Kevin, getting back to some of the football on the field last night. Next weekend, we got a whale of a game coming up. St. Augustine, Williamstown. St. Augustine, one of the hottest teams in South Jersey, as is Williamstown. How do you see this thing shaking out? Can we believe that Williamstown's for real?
Yeah, Williamstown is for real. And if you haven't seen Williamstown play, and maybe your team's playing too far away, you don't want to go, your team's off next week, I don't know, go to Williamstown, because I think that game right now is going to be all indications are that game should be just an awesome game. 2 teams that are really playing extremely well. Obviously, Williamstown hasn't lost yet at 8-0, and St. Augustine now at I believe 6-2 with 5 straight. So both teams there, play very, very good defense. The offenses are both explosive, especially when running the football, and it's just Williamstown is it's a little bit of a different animal down there. I mean, their pregame rituals are pretty good, and they pack the place in. So, if St. Augustine can get their people to travel a little bit, travel well, I think that place is obviously going to be the place to be next Friday night. And with no disrespect to any other games through this point in the season, that game could be the game of the year. And Williamstown's for real, and I've been extremely impressed with them. Like I said before, I kind of needed to be sold a little bit on them from the start of the season, midway through. I think I was just about there, and these last 2-3 games, I'm there, and they put a pretty good hurting, I think, on a Shawnee team that might be 2-5. but is still competitive and still has a great deal of pride, and it's a defending sectional champion. And they just ran the ball extremely well last night, and the defense came up again, gave up a couple points, but they were on the money in the first half. So Williamstown, obviously right now it sounds like a broken record, but Williamstown is for real, and I think the clear favorite in 5.
Yeah, Kevin, they're definitely the favorite, and you actually tweeted at me yesterday or last night after all the games concluded. I mean, I'm looking at their Bourne rating going into last night. They're higher than any other Group 5 school in North or South. So that includes North 1 and 2 and all the Central teams. And comparing that to their Bourne index rating with all the private schools, the only teams above them are obviously the Prep by 2 points. Then you have the big 3 up north, and then a couple other North schools in non-public 3. So Williamstown could be arguably one of, if not the best public school out of the big ones in the state of New Jersey.
Williamstown is very good, but you really have to look at the entire state. And to be honest with you, don't get sucked into the Bourne Index, because just as I do, you don't know how the formula is made.
No, nobody does. I'm not getting sucked into it. I find it interesting because Bourne obviously has a mathematical formula. He trusts it, so I just find that interesting considering they're above everybody in Group 5 throughout the entire state.
They're very good. There are some very, very good Group 5 teams in the North as well. I won't, I can't sit here today and tell you that Williamstown is the best public school in the state. If you want to strictly go by numbers and use that as a criteria, then so be it. But as you mentioned last night, there's some North Jersey teams, and I think Piscataway is the one team that everybody's going to be looking at after they knocked off, I believe, Sayreville last night. So there's a chance for that game at MetLife to feature Williamstown and Piscataway if everybody takes care of business. So we ultimately will find out. But going back to Williamstown, yes, they are very good. They play tremendous defense. Aaron Lewis, a junior defensive end, picked up an offer from Penn State last weekend. The kid is just all over the place. You heard his name, I don't know, if you heard his name 6 times, you heard it a dozen times last night. And other guys like Brandon Perkins and Wade Inns getting it done offensively. It was kind of his game last night. J.C. Collins, a quarterback and defensive back, has had himself an extremely solid season. So, across the board, Williamstown is strong. And, they took their lumps 2 years ago, got a little bit better last year. And this, the months leading up to this season, this was it for this senior group and, a talented bunch of juniors. And they've put it all together, and getting up and being in that weight room and doing things at 6 in.the morning is obviously paying off for them big time.
Hey, Kevin, real quick before we let you go, are your boys going to win a state title, Washington Township Soccer?
They're
rolling, man. They are rolling.
Yesterday was tight. I think it was 3-2 in overtime against Clearview, but Clearview, for some reason, always seems to give them fits. Always, no matter what season. But they found a way to sneak through, and I don't know. I think I think they put it together. And they can win the coaches tournament, and then when that state tournament obviously comes, 6 games to a championship, I believe it is. So this is obviously one of the best teams Washington Township has had, as well in its, I want to say, for the sake of argument, the last 10 years. This run that this program has had is incredible, and this particular group is led by a senior class that has played together at the club level and won regional and national type of events. So, yeah,
to me, they're the clear-cut number 1 in South Jersey right now.
Oh, without a doubt. I think last week they were number 4 in the state, and they had moved their way up to number 4 in the state. There's some very tough teams up north. That ultimately they're going to have to face one of them, and the Central Jersey will obviously be no picnic as well. But Washington Township Soccer's, they expect to win when they go out there. They've done the things that it takes to win, and who knows? It's awful hard to go into tournaments with no losses. So, that one loss is it. So We'll see how they handle it. But no, they're very good once again this season.
Good stuff as always, Kevin. Appreciate the time and enjoy the rest of your weekend, buddy.
All right, so appreciate it again, Nick. Don't drink that Bourne Index too much.
I hope it's gone by next year. Let's go to seating committees.
There you go.
As long as there's some transparency and seating committee sounds good to me, and you got to be at least 500. Bottom line.
Cool. We're on board. No winless teams either.
Exactly.
Great stuff, Kevin. Man, have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Thanks again.